Hello everyone, wishing you all a special National Nutrition Month celebrated in the month of September. Our Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has also given a special message during this occasion and given that little boost that is required to this whole concept of eradicating malnutrition from our country. How big is malnutrition and why do we need to focus on this? If you see world over, about one third of the malnourished children especially are found in India. And if we collectively don't work towards this, try and eradicate it as much as possible, we do not only have physical impairments, but we also have slowed mental growth because of lack of nutrition. So let us today try and understand how malnutrition can really impact all of us, especially the very young population of less than 1,000 days children. The first 1,000 days are very, very crucial, and we need to do our best in being able to ensure that the pregnant mother, lactating mother is adequately taken care of so that the child's health is at its best. We focus on therefore the mother's nutrition, the feeding mother's nutrition, and also the child in the first 1,000 days. So from conception to the first 2 years of life, we count as 1,000 days, and the best nutritional foundations can be given during this period of time. Now, beyond that, as an individual grows into adulthood, we also need to ensure that they are getting, the ongoing nutrients which will help their growth and development, and make sure that they grow to their best potential in terms of their, in terms of their genetic potential and also what their, parental lineage is. Now, if you try and look at which are the nutrients which are most important to ensure that malnutrition does not occur, at a very basic level, at a very minimum requirement of nutrients, if we see, it is obviously our calories and proteins which are very, very required. Many children in India who fall under the category of malnutrition really don't grow to their height potential or don't grow up to their actual weights that they should be for that particular age. And all this can be tackled simply by giving and providing adequate nutrition. If we see the national initiatives like Poshan Abhiyan, which has been started by our Prime Minister, it focuses on ensuring that the child gets at least one third of their nutrients through the midday meal program and increasing the awareness through Poshan Abhiyan. So rightly this year he has come up with the concept of a nutrition monitor, a nutrition card which every child in the school should have, so that we monitor them, we catch them very young and catch them very early and do not wait until the ill effects of malnutrition have already set in. While we're talking about this in terms of children per se, malnutrition is quite prevalent in the community. When we see in our hospitals as well, about one third of the patients who walk into the hospital are also already malnourished. And these are the people who don't do well. These are the people who land up staying longer in the hospital. Or also these are the people who need readmissions very, very frequently. So let us try and understand today collectively as a nation, as an individual, and as a healthcare worker, how we can eradicate this malnutrition from our immediate surroundings. We can look for it within our family, within our extended family. We can look for it in the community that we belong to and the nation as a whole, and take steps to ensure that we are moving in the right direction and try and reduce malnutrition as much as possible. So what is it in food, really that we need to ensure that you ensure that we definitely include in our diet. At the basic level, we need to include required calories and proteins. Now, all of us have heard a lot about proteins, but calories become equally important, especially when we are tackling, protein energy malnutrition. So, an individual should get adequate amount of calories and adequate amount of proteins to ensure that optimal growth is happening. In general, if we see, which of these nutrients are lacking, we see that India in general eats very less amount of protein. Now this may be because of lack of awareness, availability. It also could be partially because we are predominantly a vegetarian community, and even though we eat non-veg, we eat it quite less frequently and occasionally, or only on weekends. So all of us need to see how we can include more of protein in the diet, whether it is coming from the milk that we are taking, the curd that we are taking, the dals that we should be taking both lunch and dinner, and various forms of pulses that we can include in our diet. It's just not about a plain dal that we include, but let's try and include different types of pulses. It could be your chole, it could be your rajma, it could be the moong, and moreover, if these are sprouted, you will have additional benefits of extra micronutrients that they develop when any seed per se sprouts. Apart from this, we also get protein from our eggs, from our non-vegetarian food, and if you do take them, try and include them once or twice a week to add to the additional protein needs of an individual. If you really look at how much protein we need about 1 gram per kg. So suppose you should be 60 grams, 60 kgs, you should at least be taking 60 grams of protein. Many people say that I eat an egg, so I get the total amount of protein. But when you eat egg, you get about 6 grams protein. So for that 6 to go up to 60, we have to include many things. We have to include the vegetarian sources and the non-vegetarian sources, and collectively it comes up to 60 to 70 grams of protein. In children, this need only increases. In the sense, in children, we need 2 grams per kg. So if a child should be, let's say, 30 kgs, he also needs close to 60 grams of protein, because we are both because there's an exponential growth that happens in children at different growth spurts. So they also need anywhere between 50 to 60 grams of protein. Now these are the two macronutrients that we are discussing. There are other many other nutrients that we need to look at. Of the many, I would like to bring your attention also to the micronutrient malnutrition that all of us are facing. All adults living in a urban population with good access to both healthcare, to information, and ability to buy whatever food that we need, we all are still facing a lot of micronutrient deficiency. So to combat micronutrient deficiency and to prevent it to set in the first place, the mantra is, of course, to ensure that we all are having a balanced meal. So our food choices that we are making is really, really affecting the balance of nutrients that we really need. We see that a lot of us are moving towards Western snacks. We are, moving towards junk. We are moving towards occasionally, or at least once a week, twice a week, eating outside food. All of these contributes to the lack of balance that we are looking at, and also the body has to come up with lot of other nutrients from the body to be able to digest these nutrients or metabolize these free radicals that may be coming from outside. Now, while many micronutrients are important during this time when we are all fighting a pandemic, we need to make sure that we are healthy. We are healthy in the right optimal sense. And apart from looking at the macronutrients, we also need to look at the small micronutrients. While there are many, the most important ones that I would like to focus and bring your attention to is iron-rich foods. We see that anemia is so very prevalent in our community, both in children and in adults. We see people within the community or within those who are working around us. We see that almost 50% of the working women are anemic for various reasons. Either they don't identify it, or they don't prioritize their own eating patterns, or they have the knowledge but they do not implement the knowledge. To combat anemia, there are many steps that we need to take. One is, if it's very low, we need medication for about 3 months minimum. But beyond that, the diet has to be rich in iron. How do we ensure, or which are the foods that we need to definitely include to bring about the iron content of the diet that we are eating. Eat a lot of green leafy vegetables. Ensure that you are having a handful of nuts, preferably different kinds of nuts or assorted nuts, about 10 or 12 in number every day. Ensure that you are having dals every day with both the meals, with have some green leafy vegetables added to it. Excess amount, a lot of iron also comes from non-vegetarian sources. So if you're a non-vegetarian, eat your eggs every day, eat your non-veg at least twice or thrice a week until you are able to come out of this anemic situation. While eating high iron ensures that a lot of iron is going into the body, yeah, we also need to ensure that vitamin C is present in our diet, which ensures better absorption of iron. Where do you get vitamin C from? We get it from guavas, we get it from oranges, we get it from mosambi, and in this season we are getting all these fruits in plenty. In fact, this is a season where we are getting different kinds of fruits, and I urge each one of you to include at least 2 or 3 in your diet every day, so that you are not only helping with your, it not only helps with your iron absorption, but it also ensures that you are getting a good antioxidant which will help you fight away all the infections that we are trying to be away from. Now, apart from so when it comes to anemia, tackling anemia happens with a high iron diet. It happens by taking a lot of protein in your diet and ensure adequate amount is there, and also ensuring a lot of vitamin C is there in your diet. And now, who else is more susceptible? When we look at this pandemic, who could be more susceptible? Definitely people who are malnourished, who are not adequate for their weight is not adequate. If they fall into their low BMI, or if they are underweight category or extreme underweight category, if they fall to, obviously they are the ones who are going to be far more susceptible in catching this pandemic. Now, also those who, malnutrition also is a big, large umbrella. It includes both the severely undernourished and those who have very low BMIs. It also includes those who are, very high BMIs. That means those who are obese, those who are overweight. It covers that entire umbrella. So while those who are obese definitely know and understand that they need to reduce weight and take care, you also have on the other side of the spectrum those who are extremely underweight and are constantly susceptible to a lot of infection and diseases. So now we'll also look at some nutrients which I feel each one of you individually need to optimize. Apart from iron, vitamin C and protein, we also need to look at B12 and vitamin D. Now, what I have seen in my practice is many of the working population and even those who stay at home, even though we don't do that much of hardcore physical activity, and most of our lifestyle is very sedentary, people feel very fatigued and tired after going home, and this is typically even diagnosed as a chronic fatigue syndrome. And if this is something that you are experiencing regularly, you could be deficient in certain nutrients, and these nutrients are B12 and vitamin D. So know your values, have a health check, figure out what the values are, and if they are extremely low, make sure you are getting it through your diet, or if they're very low, you might need certain injections for a small period of time. So vitamin B12, how do we get this from our food is the most common question that we get. B12, unfortunately, vegetarian sources are not many. If you sprout your food, if you have fermented food, if you have some amount of nuts in your diet, you will get some B12, but not the entire quantity. So those who are vegetarians, you're forced to have a balanced meal. You're forced to look at the various components very carefully to ensure that these kind of deficiencies, micronutrient deficiencies, don't happen. Similarly, vitamin D, as we all know, is called the sunshine vitamin. We could also call it the happiness vitamin, because when somebody has very low vitamin D, you see that they are very deficient. They are far more unhappy. They could be depressed. They could be anxious. apart from symptoms of bone pain, muscle pain, and easy susceptibility to various disorders. It could be diabetes, it could be cancer, a lot of gastrointestinal disorders. Now, during this period of the COVID, a lot of papers are coming forward to show that those who are deficient in vitamin D are far more susceptible, or if they do tend to get hospitalized, they are the ones who are finding it difficult to come out of the hospital very quickly. So this is a nutrient that needs as much of information, as much of awareness as possible. 90% of it comes from the sunshine, so try and spend a lot of time in the sun, at least half an hour daily. And if you think that is not happening, you should know exactly where your values are standing and try and get that from your medication, because very little comes from the diet. Only about 10% of the requirement really comes from the diet. We have foods which are rich in vitamin D, like your fortified milk, you have mushrooms, you have a little bit coming from eggs, and you have a little bit coming from mushrooms and a little bit coming from fatty fish. But all of these accounts to only about 10% and nothing more than that. So the focus has to be either you stand in the sun for about half an hour every day, or you are looking at some kind of a medication for a short period to ensure that the values do come up. If there are any questions, we will see them now and then take the session forward. So while we wait for the questions to come in, there is some more information which I would like to share and take it forward. I'm waiting for my team to read up the comments, and then I will answer those questions. I hope all of us are able to understand these points. One question which I have received is then if we are on a diet, we might lack certain vitamins. How do we ensure that we are following a good ideal diet? Yes, I think we have covered this particular answer, that while you want to look at specific individual nutrients, it might get very difficult for me as a layman to really look at various nutrients and ensure that I'm getting all of that in my diet. So in my hurry-burry, I might not really be able to, ensure that I am measuring each and every nutrient. So the best way is to ensure that I am getting the right nutrients in the form of a balanced meal, wherein I'm getting my calories, I'm getting my proteins, the fats, etc. So how do I pick, among the various foods that are available, how do I really pick those specific ones which are really going to be very helpful? We do this by two methods. One is, include the foods from the 5 different food groups. That means you have some cereals, whether it is coming from your rice, wheat, jawar, and more so now the nutri cereals or the millets that we are talking about. It is a revolution, and in the right sense, because we not only get higher amounts of fiber, lower carbohydrates from millets, but we also get a lot of other important nutrients and minerals which are higher in quantity. So even if you can't include them every day, try and variate that in your diet as much as possible. Once a week, twice a week, thrice a week, if you can include millets in the diet, you should go ahead and do that. I have seen that it makes you eat far less carbohydrates because it improves your satiety with very small quantities, and you definitely will not be able to overeat from the quantity point of view. The second group is proteins. We've spoken enough of different kinds of proteins that need to be included. The third group is the fats. while we need to cut down on a lot of saturated fat which may be coming from butter, ghee, dalda, we need to include a lot of vegetable oils. And while we are allowed to use the traditional vegetable oils like groundnut, sunflower, mustard, or rice bran, we should make sure that the usage is as limited as possible, because it not only impacts weight, it also impacts our cholesterol deposition, and therefore we have to keep it to as minimum as possible. The fourth and the fifth category are important. The fourth category is your fruit and vegetable, from where you're not only getting your vitamins, minerals, you're getting a lot of phytochemicals which help you, fight away the free radicals that you may be getting from the food you eat, from the environment in terms of pollution. All this is fought away, all this is clean in the body if your body is absolutely good in terms of its ability to fight away nutrients by taking a lot of phytochemicals. So when you have these dark colored fruit and vegetable, you're automatically getting this phytochemical rich diet which is able to keep you healthy and fight away a lot of pollutants which may be coming from outside. Now, fruit and vegetable category, of course, gives us a lot of nutrients, but they also give us something called as a non-nutrient. And non-nutrient is the fiber, and this fiber alone in two different forms, that is the soluble and the insoluble form, allows us to keep our gut healthy, allows us to keep our stomach healthy. And the moment our gut is healthy, it automatically ensures that we feel good, we sense that we are feeling absolutely healthy, and it maintains the gut homeostasis, or it maintains the gut balance of micronutrients, and does not even allow the disease pattern to set in the first place. And the last category, of course, is the sugar category and the oil category, which is a very, very small category, and as a tip of the pyramid, and we try and keep it to as minimal as possible. All of us love eating our sweets, all of us love eating our deep fried stuff. We should keep that in our diet, but keep it occasional and keep it minimal, so that it is not having a negative impact on our health. The another way of ensuring that we are having the right kind of a diet pattern is the way we look at our plate. When we all look at our plate, the overall diet that we are eating, if it is represented by a plate, would we see half of the plate as fruit, vegetables, raw vegetables? And all of it need not be raw vegetable, but the cooked vegetable that we're eating, little bit of fruit that we're eating, little bit of salad that we're eating, would it comprise about 50% of our overall intake? 1/4 of it, of course, will be some cereal, whether it is the rice or the roti that we are eating, and another 1/4 should be protein. So when you look at your plate, you visualize and see, what do you see? Do you see a lot of rice and very little vegetable, or do you see vice versa? You see a lot of vegetable, a lot of dal in the diet, and you see very little quantity of rice or roti on your plate. Based on that, you can decide whether you are in the right direction or not, or you are implementing the basic protocols of a good balanced meal, which is preventing ill health, which is also being very protective currently, and at the same time going to be very, very preventive in terms of future health and disease. I'll look for some comments and then see if So Akhila, you have written that how can we help underprivileged people, as this year hard hit on financial situations for many, like maids, drivers, etc. Yes, Akhila, very much agree with what you are saying. I think one concept which the PM's office has promoted is also a kitchen garden, and Paudhe Se Poshan, and I really like the entire concept, and all of us who are in this field, or all of us who are reaching out to people, should promote the concept of Paudhe Se Poshan and encourage our kitchen gardens, terrace gardens, so that we get food, healthy food, nutritious food, at a very low cost. It has been well documented that those who maintain a kitchen garden of green leafy vegetables, are able to tackle anemia on their own with their foods available from the garden without even having medication. So it is a powerful tool. It has been used in ICDS projects, and therefore now the Prime Minister is promoting it, and we should all join hands in pushing this forward, explaining it to the community and taking it forward. So all of us who want good chemically untouched food, one of the ways is to start growing it in our kitchen garden and grow whatever you can. Some of us can grow green leafy vegetables, some of us can grow methi, some of us can grow pudina, some of us can grow the basic tomatoes and chilies and loki. Whatever you can do, let's take that step forward and start doing it. Akhila, you've also written, can you suggest some pocket-friendly foods for such underprivileged people to have good health? Yes, Akhila, I think one of the ways of looking at it is to include a lot of, groundnuts in the diet. They give you B6, they give you B9, they give you good type of fats, they give you a good amount of calories and proteins as well. So you can include that in the form of a chikki, you can include that in the form of a laddu, you can have it just like that roasted. So some basic nuts, I understand that everybody may not be able to have the very expensive dried nuts and nuts, dried fruits and nuts. But even if you are taking the roasted nuts, if you are taking something like lotus seeds, if you are including the watermelon seeds instead of the kaju that you are adding to your vegetable, all of that can also contribute to a low cost healthy meal. The locally available products are the best bet. So if you look at our state, you have flax seeds which are there in our local cuisine. It's there in the local Telangana cuisine to use Avisa ginjalu as accompaniment for our idli and dosa. I think revival of such old practices or ancient practices and revisiting ancient practices will really, really be helpful to improve health in the small day-to-day activities or day-to-day foods that we take. So at the end of the session, I would like to urge each one of you to focus on your health, to ensure that you do not swing from one end of undernutrition to the other end of overnutrition or obesity, and try and keep your weight within the right bracket of your BMI, which is between 18 to 25. Not only looking at macronutrients, but also looking at the small micronutrients. In this pandemic situation, ensure that you are eating a lot of fruits in your diet, especially the vitamin C rich fruits. You're getting your micronutrients from your daily diet by including lots of nuts in your diet, and to grow the concept of what the Prime Minister wants us to look at, try and implement the nutrition monitor in whichever area that you are. If you're working in an office, for your employees, if you're working in a school, for as a nutrition card for the children, and encourage the concept of kitchen gardens as we go forward. Thank you, and meet you all again.